Welcome to Behind the Lens podcast. Today's guest is Shannon Stone. Now, Shannon is a dear friend of mine, probably been friends or internet friends, I should say, for probably the last 5 or so years. We've done some work together, but the thing with Shannon is she's a beautiful, beautiful soul. And she is someone who, you know, has made it work amongst being a single mum in business, and is someone who, when she speaks, you really, really tune in and listen because she has a lot of power and a lot of meaning behind her words. She shares a little bit about her story behind the scenes. We talk a little bit about experiences and being in business and a whole range of other things. But ultimately, this is a really cool episode, and I know you're going to enjoy it if you stick around. So today's episode is powered by Triple Effect, where we create 6 months worth of video content for YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, and film it all in the space of 2 days. We do everything from scripting, filming, editing, as well as publishing up to 3 videos weekly. So if you're interested in finding out more about Triple Effect, head to tripleeffect.com.au. Otherwise, let's get started with the show. All right, so welcome to another episode of Behind the Lens. Today, I am joined by the wonderful, amazing, and beautiful Shannon Stone. Now, Shannon is an award-winning business and marketing coach or consultant, I should say, who helps service-based businesses make more sales. Now, Shannon and I have actually done some work in the past together, have known each other for at least the last few years. So very excited to have you on, Shannon. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited for our chat today. Wherever it's going to go, I'm excited.
Yeah. Now, I'm just as excited to have this chat. You know, as I mentioned before, we've done some brief work together. You know, I think what I do want to ask about and have you remind me, or even talk about where we first connected and all those other things. But throughout the last few years, at least the last 4 years since we've been in business, 4 and a bit years since I've been full time in this business, potentially even earlier, we've been connected and we've helped refer clients to each other. I'm pretty sure you were helping me with some work with one of our clients and maybe a couple of others as well. But what the thing that I do remember is there's been different stages that we've just had, catch ups and chats and things like that. I just feel like we've got very, very similar morals and values and things like that. You're obviously a mum as well. So from the family side, definitely resonate the family and business and making those two work. So very excited to obviously have today's chat. But let's go back to where it all began and everything else. So where, can you help me remind me, did we connect in Business, the Facebook group, or was it somewhere similar?
Yeah, I think that was the base camp where we connected. I'm pretty sure it was the Business Facebook group, which probably was about 2016, 2017. I know
wow.
For me. Yeah, I know for me, I started my business 2015. And I did a lot of networking in person right at the beginning, but I jumped more into the Facebook group scene when my daughter was unwell. Found out she was unwell a couple of times. It could have been when she had a gluten intolerance and missed a lot of school. But that's when I really dived into Facebook groups. And that probably was 2016, 2017, around then. So I think that's when I would have met you in those groups as well.
Yeah.
And here we are. Can you imagine that? Just meeting in a Facebook group?
No, right? Well, we've never actually met in person. I'm sure we'll make that happen one day.
Yeah.
However, so look, the funny thing is, so you started in 2016. I 2015. Did you say?
Yeah.
2015. Yeah. So you started all the way back then. Now, I'm sure I was in that group probably around 2017 or around that time anyway. Because I know it wasn't until the end of 2018 that I left my full-time job, but I was definitely hustling that group for connections and opportunities wherever they were going to pop up. And I think still to this day, if you think about it, I'm not sure. I definitely don't use Facebook groups the way that I used to in that space of time. But they were like, there's still a really big opportunity in one way or another to connect in some sort of community sense, and Facebook groups are a really, really good opportunity to do that, where you can. And so just on that point, like, you're talking about Facebook groups and obviously starting your business and connections. Like, why Facebook groups at that point in time for you?
Yeah, for me, so I got into the Facebook groups purely because I had really grown my business really quickly in the beginning from in-person networking. And then when my daughter was unwell, I couldn't leave the house really to go to all these networking events. She was homesick. And I was a single mom when I started my business as well. So I was like, and I was also working with a business coach, and I was getting all these ideas, and I was like, but I can't leave the house. So how can I keep going to these networking events and building and growing my business? So I was like, okay, well, let me just apply the same strategies to Facebook and Facebook groups. And I was like, it's networking, right? At the end of the day. And I just took the exact same approach, found the right networking groups or the right Facebook groups, and just, showed up with authenticity. Like, you don't go into a networking group passing around your business card. And I didn't do the same thing in the groups. I just wanted to add value. I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to learn about what they did. And like, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I can achieve the exact same thing from home without leaving. And in some ways, there's pros and cons to everything, but in a lot of ways it was better. And then, I eventually started my own Facebook group. But I'm like you as well. It's like, I don't use it how I used to use it, but there's so many different ways you can use Facebook groups as a, part of your strategy as well.
Yeah, I love that. And you're absolutely right. And like, the same that applies to Facebook groups, like, because I'm in the video game, it applies to video as well. You don't create a single video to try and either go viral or, sell everyone on everything. You've got it's a long-term play, and it's effectively putting out pieces to build better connections or even create better conversations with people, in person and or electronically and all those other things. And I think, like, even just this conversation and where we are today between you and I is a really good reflection on that as well. So talk to me. I'd love to understand, obviously, like, I gave you a brief little intro, but talk to me more about some of the people that you work with and some of the work that you do, just for those who are, interested to understand more about Shannon.
Yeah. So the work that I do, I work one-on-one with service-based business owners, and they've all got the same thing of they want to grow their business, they want to make more sales. And those type of people, all service-based, they're either in business to business, so they're selling to business owners or to businesses, whether, they sell sales training or even marketing agencies. I've helped a lot of them. So B2B or professional services, accountants, designers, interior designers, those kind of things. So yeah, I work with them one-on-one, figure out how they can not just make more sales, but better sales as well.
I love that. Now, we've obviously, because we've been connected and whatnot, I obviously follow your socials and some of the things that you're putting out and whatnot. And one of the things that I definitely see that you are really on point with is your offers and things like that. How would you explain to someone, like, especially from a service-based business point of view, how important their offer is, and even, how would you structure an offer if you were working with someone?
Yeah, your offer is everything. And I've been thinking a lot about this recently because I did put an offer out about helping people to enhance their offer. And I thought, what, when I started my business 7-8 years ago, I didn't start there. It was all about the marketing. If anyone wants to grow, just get more sales, let's focus on the marketing. But these days, in the last several years, it's not just about the marketing. It's about, well, what are you selling first and foremost, before we put any kind of marketing behind that. So I guess an example is, and to answer your question, it's like, well, what are you selling? Exactly what is it that you're selling? Because I think business owners, when you're really attached to your business, and if you've been on a roller coaster as well, people can create an offer or a service or a package based on what they believe someone's going to buy. And, it's not really based on the true value they can provide to someone. So I rather look at, okay, what's the problem you solve? What's the real service you would like to deliver? If anything was possible, what would that look like? Not based on, what you think people are going to buy, how much they're going to pay for those things. We put all of that to a side and we just think of what's a problem you solve and what would be the ideal way to actually help people with that. And from that, we create something that's so much more beautiful than, selling something that's not aligned to them because it was based on, negative beliefs about their pricing and who they could sell to and all those kind of things. So we kind of really look at the foundation first, and then we kind of go from there. So look at pricing, what you're selling, who you're selling it to, and what are the inclusions on that, how long you want people to work with you as well. It's like if you really want to work with people for 12 months, there are people who want to work with you for 12 months versus if you're just selling people month to month or even session by session, if that's their business model. You're going to fall short. You're going to have to always re-educate people to re-sign them. They're probably not going to get the right value because they're just working with you in small doses. So start with what's the problem you solve and create the offer around that. And then you can deal with your stories in another way. But it's really funny because the marketing actually helps people, I find, to deal with all their mindset issues.
Absolutely. Everything you've just explained, I resonate so much with, like, even my own journey. And just to give some context around that, like when I first started creating videos and running a video agency, like most videographers in today's day and age, it's like, you'll have a business who has a need or some sort of want or some sort of inkling they need to get better with video. So most videographers will put together some sort of package to create a couple of different videos, get some really cool B-roll, usually create something for their website. If they've got an intention behind it, they may want to run some ads or do some bits and pieces. But above and beyond that, there's not too much to it, right? What I started to see as I went through my own journey is that there's a lot of, especially in the coaching space, this is the space that I really expanded in and sort of opened up my eyes, is that coaches and consultants are running offers to work with them over 3, 6, 12-month periods, depending on who they are and what they offer and all those other things. And what they need is typically videos that are going out over a course of a period of time. And so naturally, I was like, oh, well, how about like we create a video package where we film a whole bunch of content and you can distribute it yourself over that period of time. And that worked really well for a period of time until I actually had a buyer's agent who came to me and said to me, Alan, what if we commit for 6 months and do 2 days of filming over this 6 months? What's it going to cost? Like, what's the best price you can do? Like, they were working me, and I was like, fuck yeah, I love this. I love the fact that they want to make a longer term commitment. And immediately, like, my ears perked up. I was like, how good, like, they trust, before even working with me, they trust that I'm going to deliver these results to make a commitment over 6 months. Ran with that for 2 years or so, and now, like, I don't advertise it as such, but we actually have 6 and 12 month packages, and we monetarily incentivize people to make longer term commitments because of the prices and the amount of videos and what's included and all those other things. Because most of the time, like, the people who do a one-off package, and this has been really transparent, people who do a one-off package are just looking at their short-term problems. They're just looking at short-term things like, I need a video for this, this, and this, and we offer that solution for them. But we really want to attract people who are long-term committed to long-term results and all those other things, and incentivize that through the way that our packages are structured and all those other things. And so anyone who's ever like sat through like a presentation with me or with us in general will know and be able to see that, oh yeah, okay, I understand that if I make a long-term commitment, because that's where we get the best results. Like we get the best results long-term and everything else. And
that's what it should be based around. It, you know, what's the result they're looking for, and how can we help them with our skills to develop that result best for them. So it's like, if you can hold your stance and build that offer around the ideal result they're looking for, you're going to hold them to a higher standard as well. And even if they were on the fence of like, I don't know if I really want to commit for this long, but you've actually framed it in so much like authenticity and integrity around, it's because I want you to get the result. It's like, if we just helped you with videos for one launch and it was just very transactional, you know, you're just going to get a tip of the iceberg. You're not going to get the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like, absolutely, I like to use, and this is a little key phrase that I keep using now, because I've seen it with my own presence and our clients, but it's the compound effect of consistently doing something, and that compounding effect then having a lasting longer effect of, you know, chain reactions and things like that. And it's really funny because, if you do anything consistently for long enough and add enough value and focus and all those other things that come out of it, like, you know, it's so funny. Like, even some of our clients, like the majority of our clients, and this is not a hard and fast rule or a guarantee either, but the majority of our clients share with me that they increase their top line revenue by 2 to 3 times a year over a 12-month period, simply by doing videos. And obviously there's much more to it than just publishing videos.
Yeah, that's
obviously the business needs to work and all those other things, but it's typically like, it gives you a frame of like, when you find the right person in a growth mode and they're just looking for what are those extra things that help us to build more brand awareness and all those other things, that's where it all comes in. Here I am sitting, flogging my product and service, but I'm really keen to understand.
It provides that context. It's excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I love talking about offers as well, is because obviously from a marketing point of view, you're absolutely right. When your offer is on point, your marketing, it's so much easier, it flows so much easier. And it's really just about like the detail, the results, like what someone going to get if they make a commitment and what's included, you know, and does that work for me, you know?
Yeah, I'll leave a quick point on that as well, is that I think a lot of the advice I give is not the advice people want to hear. They want to hear, like, I was at an event yesterday and someone said, well, what are the latest marketing strategies? What should everyone be doing? And for a business owner who just steps into doing more sales and marketing activity and they haven't addressed the offer, they can feel this false sense of progress of like, well, I'm spending all this in marketing. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, maybe I've hired an agency, and all the things can work. But if you haven't addressed the most important part that needs to work, they'll get this false sense of progress because they're spending or they're taking a lot of action. But it's like, just come back to your foundations first and foremost.
I love that. I was literally about to talk about foundations as well, because even in the example we were talking about Facebook groups and whatnot, you were talking about like, I was networking face to face, and then the foundations of that principle I've just applied to Facebook groups, and it worked and everything else. And the fact that you just used that example again, solidifies more about, again, what I don't want to keep talking about videos, this, because people will think I'm just selling my video, but this is exactly it. Like, it's really the foundations of building relationships, isn't it? It's the foundations of people get very caught up, exactly like you said, the marketing trends, watch social media platforms and all those other things. And absolutely, like, if you were like a creator and you wanted to specifically just go viral and build an incredibly big account to attract sponsors and all those other things, which may be some of people's goals, then all like what we're talking about may not apply. But if you're a service-based business looking to get really good, effective marketing, take what's already working, those foundations, and apply them to whatever it is that you're doing, email, video, Facebook groups, whatever, right? I'd love to hear when you hear your thoughts on foundations.
Yeah, I think the foundations are really everything. And it's one of the, when someone wants to grow or they want more ideas for marketing strategies and things, I always say, well, where did your last clients come from? And have it go client by client. That last client came from here, just really dissect it. And then that client came from here, really dissect it. And you will find it's it could be networking, it could be relationship building, but it's all laid out there for them to really identify and tackle. It's oh, well, if I just did more of that or I systemize more of that, it's all these clients came from these kind of needs. For example, a big chunk of my clients will come from having been part of a program, a mastermind, or attended a retreat, often in those one-to-many, especially the clients that are in the coaching space. They come from that group dynamic, and then they're you know what, I just felt like another number or another person, or it wasn't personalized to me. And so I have that awareness now of looking back at where do all these people come from? I don't need to, one, I could just use it as awareness, but two, now I've got this awareness that I could create a marketing strategy around that. Maybe I could show up at retreats, or I could be a guest speaker at a retreat, or same goes in a program or a mastermind. So it does come back to those foundations, but the evidence is already there.
I love that. And it's that's the thing, is it's all well and good. And this sort of, I'm sure you'll relate to this. It's all well and good with a lot of different people that you'll speak to as well, who will go who will think that video is the thing, or email is the thing, or Facebook groups is the thing, or whatever the marketing trend is. But exactly like you sort of said, you've got to apply what's already been working, and then just apply more of it and get more focused on it. It's actually one of the reasons why, I even just before we jumped on this podcast, I was saying to you that last year we had we were doing running Facebook ads on a very wide basis, and that was working really, really well. And then the beginning of this year, 2023, applied almost the same principles, and it didn't work. It didn't work in the same way. And we then had to pivot and get a little bit deeper on some industries, and that began to work. And so it's really interesting then, that same process, and why I talk about this is because I'm actually going to be involved, or currently involved in 3 different marketing. I've got one business coach, and I'm also involved in 3 different live events that are happening in the next 2 to 3 months for that pure reason. Not because I'm going there to sell. I just know that being in those rooms, like you've just indicated, is one of the key things that has helped us grow our business. The relationships that we've built as a result of being in rooms and things like that is so valuable. And everyone and you spend enough time marketing and spend enough time in doing what you're doing, everyone knows someone. Everyone knows everyone as well.
I think it's about being quite holistic as well. For example, I was chatting to someone yesterday, and just as you were talking as well, and it was an older gentleman talking about, how to use social media and that type of thing. And I said to him, there's so many different ways to use social media. For example, you could be at a networking event, you meet people, you're not there to sell, you're just there to have great conversations, find out about people, build those relationships. Afterwards, you probably go home, next day, connect with them, maybe pop an email to a couple of them, maybe invite some to coffee, whatever it may be. But what will often happen is people will, stalk your socials. They'll have a look at your Facebook page, or they'll look at your LinkedIn, or whatever it may be. So you could use social media as just almost like a billboard, as a way to just as a presence of, it's not a lead generator. It's just to validate you are who you said you are yesterday when I spoke to you at that networking event. And I can look at your reviews, and they're pretty on point. So there's it's just it connects all the different dots. So you can use any platform in any kind of way. And I think that's, we all have to really look at, how do I actually want to use this platform? Do I want to use Facebook where I'm trying to actively generate leads? Or is it that I really do love networking in, whether it's going to events or whatever the method is, but I'm going to use social media just to be a bit of a billboard. So when people check it out, it ticks all those boxes. When I'm not there telling them how good I am, it's going to do it for me in a really authentic way. And my reviews are going to do the same as well.
Absolutely. I resonate with everything you've just shared. And you're exactly right. Even when I notice that when we run Facebook ads for our offers and things like that, people will typically go and have a quick look at your profile before filling in their details. And and to verify your point, like if you have content or you have pieces there that clarify, testimonials and all those other things that justifies or shares and shows that you're walking the walk and you're talking the talk of whatever it is that you say you can do, it goes a very long way to building that little bit more trust to leave your details with someone who's publicly sharing what they do and publicly sharing that they are doing it and everything else as well. So look, so obviously we connected back in the business group, and that's been very interesting in itself, watching that group and everything that's been happening there. But I wanted to ask about, from memory, did I have a client and you were helping me do some of the social media stuff with that client? Was it more than just one client? Can you remind me? Hello, amazing human. This is just a quick, brief message to remind you to share the love. And what do I mean by sharing the love? What I mean is, if you know someone who might get value from this episode or from this interview, make sure you share this episode with them. Also, if you are enjoying this interview and may enjoy other interviews like it, make sure you hit the subscribe button or follow button on whichever platform you're listening or watching on. And lastly, if you're really enjoying this episode, if you really want to share the love, make sure you leave a rating. A positive rating with lots of love is much appreciated. Otherwise, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, so from my memory, so I know we connected through Facebook groups, and I think early on we jumped onto a call just to connect. And I think this is when you were making that transition to step into your business full time. So I just remember having these general businessy chats and things like that. And so from 2015 till 2020, those 5 years, I also ran, in addition to my consulting, I also ran a content creation business. So I worked with a lot of marketing agencies through that, where we created content for the agency's clients. So we did a lot of white labeling. That was probably 80% of our business. And so, we did some work for your clients, creating content. I vaguely remember the names, some in childcare play centers and things like that. They're all coming back.
There's I remember, that's probably the one I probably remember the most, and I'm sure there was a few others as well. But content has always been something that you've looked at, and obviously it's a big part of what you're, and I guess solidifying what you're talking about and whatnot. If you were to, like, when you talk about content to service-based businesses and things like that, what are some of the things that you sort of share or talk about when it comes to how to do content effectively? Because I know, actually, that's right, you do also do like content planning days and things like that as well. So I'd love to understand your thoughts and I guess any guides that you have around creating effective content for your business.
Yeah, definitely. Especially for service-based business owners, often they're solopreneurs or they've got a small team. So even just doing any kind of marketing is a lot of work for them. So how can we make it much more simpler? So I like the method of showing, not telling. So how can you show people what you're doing rather than telling them what you're doing? So, and that builds a lot of social proof. Like if we start to look at the strategies and things behind it, that's really what it comes down to. So, a website designer, for example, show us the websites that you're designing Show us the projects that you're working on. Show us that you went to, an upskilling day or whatever it may be. Show me what it is that you're doing rather than telling me what it is that you're doing. And again, for service-based business owners, I find they're in the lower quantity space of how many clients they need because they're selling more higher ticket services. So you don't need to be blasting content out there, 3 times a day or even every day for some of them. I think even 3 times a week is very reasonable and very practical for people. So if you did one about social proof, this is what I did today, or here's a project we worked on, or here's a recap of what I did this week and who I worked with or some of the results. That would be one. I think a second category I like is something of value. How can you share, something of your perspective? For like when I shared to the elderly gentleman about social media, do you have to use it as lead generation or can it be more of a billboard? And then that releases the pressure of having to show up in the ways like people tell you to show up in inverted commas. So share a piece of you, share some value around that. And then third, some results. What are the results that you get, especially in service-based businesses? We're solving problems. So what are the problems that you solve? What did that look like? Like a client of mine ended up buying a house from the work we did together. And I was incredibly proud because not only was she a business owner, we know as business owners how hard that is to even get a mortgage or a home loan and jump through all those hoops and have your 2 years of perfect financials. She was also a single person as well. So, that is crazy enough in itself. And she was also, I guess, an immigrant. She, didn't have any family support or anything here. She was doing it all on her own. So that was something I was very proud of, that she was able to do that through the growth of her business compared to a couple of years earlier. Things were not looking very good. So I love those success stories, not just my own, but I'd love to see other people's as well.
All right.
So I guess,
let's talk about, I was just about to ask about your success story because here's the thing, right? Since I've been watching and known you, you're obviously a female in like I don't want to say like, I would like to say that the things that stand out to me the most is just your ongoing, like, if I can say, it's going to sound funny, inner strength. You sound like, it's not like you come across confident but not cocky, and you obviously are very solidified in what you do, and that really resonates with a lot of people. And I'd just love to ask, because obviously, like, I don't know heaps and heaps about your background and whatnot, but you did mention that you're a single mum, and whatnot. So I'd love to understand, I guess, a little bit more of your story of like some of the things that you've had to overcome in business, whether that's being a single mum, whether that's from whatever angle. I'd love to hear more about your story.
Yeah, definitely. I'll give a short context and then we can talk, because I think the context and the years leading up to it is relevant. So I'm a single mum, young single mum. And when I say to people, my daughter this year is turning 15, I think the second question they ask is, well, how old are you? So I had my daughter when I was 19. And I had my daughter when I was 19. At the time, I was working for Qantas in one of their factories. And I went from my, teenage job at Big W earning like $8 an hour to, I think my sister was working at this factory and she's like, I'm getting $18 an hour. I was like, oh my, that was just so inconceivable to me to earn $18 an hour. So I ended up working at both jobs at the time. But by the time I had my daughter, I was only working for Qantas. And after maternity leave, I think it was probably the first day back, but I think I gave it a month and I said, this is not for me. I'm not here to work on the factory floor, creating the foods that go on the aeroplanes. It was great in a lot of ways. I can see where my passion for systems comes from, very systemized on a supply chain. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go and study. And I really feel like I just picked marketing out of a hat. So my first year of study, I did 4 qualifications. And that was at TAFE. And then I was like in this relationship and thought, you know what, it kind of doesn't look like it's really going anywhere pretty. And so I'm going to take the next step and go on to uni and do a bachelor's in business, major in marketing. So I did that, end up being 2.5 years because of recognition of prior learning. But while I was at uni is when my relationship really broke down. And so it was a domestic violence relationship, as you can imagine, really crazy, toxic, rehab for alcoholism and all those things. But that's where things really started to fall apart when I was at uni. But I ended up graduating. And that was probably the beginning. I say it was like the beginning, but also the end of me working for others. So I went from having this degree where I was like top of my class in two of my entrepreneur marketing and social marketing. And even though I had all this like relationship breakdown happening behind the scenes, then I ended up getting an internship, which was really hard to even get. I applied for like 100 different marketing jobs and I took a free unpaid internship for 6 months. But after 3 months, they ended up hiring me. And then I worked in a few different marketing roles. So in 2015, when I did start my business, I literally started my business because I was working for all these people. It felt like, full-time plus my entire life when you factor in all the different other things you have to do, seminars and networking events and all those things. So I started my business with the skills that I had. And I really just wanted to, be someone who did marketing for other people, but I didn't want to do it myself because I had come from this domestic violence protection order field, I guess, or background. And I had 2 of them put on because there were breaches in the first 2 years and then you have it put on a second time. I was someone who didn't want to be seen. And I mean physically didn't want to be seen. Like when I was in my house, the curtains were closed. If there was a tiny gap in it, I would make sure it was closed. If I left the house, I was on high alert all the time. My daughter would never go in her school uniform outside of the car or the school. So I was very hyper aware. So when I started my business, I physically didn't want to be seen. And I know being seen is a big thing that people talk about. It's you've got to be seen, you've got to get visibility. But I guess most people didn't know, I think, this baggage that I was carrying inside. I was no, I'm happy to have 20 likes on my Facebook page. It's not about me, it's about the clients. And so I had to really, this is what I did realize when I got a few years into business. Business is this thing where you're given a platter and here's all your life problems that you get to work on presented to you. It's you don't want to be seen? Well, now you have to be seen. You're not confident? Now you have to be confident. You don't believe in yourself? Now you have to believe in yourself. So, and it never ends. 8 years on, it's never an end. And I think that's probably a good thing to realize and accept. It's you're actually probably never going to get to the end of being perfect and having cleared all the things, which is important to know because I've spent a hefty fortune in mindset work and subconscious work and all the different things, all the different people, which have all been helpful. But I think if you're not going to get to the end of it, it's it's something that you're going to carry with you and it's always going to be a work in progress. I think more people need to understand that even about their own, kind of coming back to their offers and what you're selling, will people ever get that result in the entirety? Will someone overcome all of their childhood stuff in their entirety? If they're not, that's okay, but you need to understand that. And then you have to communicate that to them so they understand that they're not feeling like a failure, that they're still not wanting to be seen. It's you can not want to be seen, but still show up. And it may always feel like that. And some days may feel harder than others, but you can keep on going forward and it'll probably come back again. So yeah.
I love the platter analogy. And it's so true. And yeah. Exactly like you sort of just mentioned, the whole idea of personal development and business sometimes just feels like a massive therapy experience, doesn't it? Exactly like you said,
yeah,
you've got to build confidence, because if you don't back yourself, people won't back you. You need to back yourself first, and you need to lead yourself first. You can't, you can, but you will struggle to, if you're emotionally sloppy. If you, for me, I've had to work a lot on emotionally not getting, I wear my heart on my sleeve and emotionally staying present and not getting offended when people say no. And it's got nothing to do with me. It's your product or service or whatever does not suit their needs, and it has nothing to do with you, Alan. You're simply a messenger of a said service, and it's not like, oh, you, Alan, are shit or anything like that. But there's so many different aspects to this and whatnot. And I'd love to understand, this is obviously, so there's a lot of stuff that you've been through and a lot of stuff that you've had to alchemize since 2015 when you first started. At this level, in the last 12 months, I'd love to understand what's something that you've had to really focus on, or something that you feel like, help us to understand what level you're at and what's something that you've had to focus on this level.
Yeah, what an awesome question. It's an awesome question because I have hopefully an awesome answer, but it actually has been something I've been thinking about, because you kind of watch the calendar years roll over of like, oh, now it's my 5th year in business and 6th year. And so you really do become a different person. So what has actually been top of mind for me, because I do a lot of reflection. I think reflection is like one of the most powerful things. I think you kind of get to a point, like at the beginning, you just don't know anything, and you don't know anything. At least that was for me. I was like, I'm starting this business. I've like no idea what's ahead of me, and I know I have no idea what's ahead of me. But where I am now, I feel like I know so much, and I can fall into like the analysis paralysis of like, there's just so many things to do. Or sometimes I can think, like, even if we talk about like the networking and, showing up on different social medias and things like that, it's like, all the different things. Now, which one do you do? And it's like, you also know the result of all the different things that can happen as well. And so I can get myself mentally into a web of like, just so much opportunity, so much potential, so much of everything. Which one do I go down? So I can really get into analysis paralysis. And probably where I've come back to, especially even in the last 3 to 6 months, is, and this is probably my latest thing that I've been working on and solidifying, it's that I don't need to be told what to do. I actually know what to do. So especially I think in the online space, or with people teaching you about all sorts of different things, it's like, here's the way to do it. Here's the way to scale your business. Here's the way to grow your business. And I'm on this like anti-scale thing at the moment. I was like, I don't really want to scale my business. I'm like, there's actually, or I don't want to scale it in the way that people tell you to scale it. It's like, go from one-on-one, then go to one-to-many. So be a one-on-one, in my case, coach or consultant, develop a group program, which I did develop an excellent group program. And even that was a journey as well. But I don't want that to be my scaling thing in the same way it is for a lot of other people. So I originally thought that program is going to be every quarter, it'll be a launch that I'll go through. Now I'm thinking, you know what, it might even be a once a year, if not a every 2-year thing, because when I went through this, I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. I know what to do. And maybe it's a little bit cocky, I don't know, but I think it's like, we have to start to trust ourselves of like, what do I actually want to do? And it's the same question I ask every person that comes to me. I've had a lot of business owners that will come and they'll say, I really want to grow this thing, or I really want to grow this business because I actually want to go and do that business. So it's like, it's like a means to an end. And a lot of the times I'm like, we're just not going to do that thing you're trying to grow in order to do that other thing. We're just going to do the thing you actually want to do. And we'll find the way that actually works. It's like, I've been testing some different ways to scale with my one-on-one services, looking at profit share and revenue share, because my clients do get amazing results. So if I want to scale my business, I don't need to change the model. I can change the offering. I can change the foundation. So I'm testing out different ways there. So I think at the moment, where I'm kind of at is like, I've gone through this bit of reflection phase. I've kind of gone through this thing of coming back to myself and trusting myself, and then leading with what is it that I really want to do, and I'll find the answers based on that. And there's answers to everything, I think. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
I love that. And thank you for being so open as well. And I'll just reflect on what you've just shared as well. This year, I made a very, very conscious effort to publish more content and much, much more consistently as well. Like I like being someone who talks about consistency and all this other stuff. Like there's been elements of me even just letting go to give my team trust and things like that. And this year I decided, all right, I'm going to go all out YouTube, create YouTube videos, do reels, do this podcast and a whole range of other things. And it's really funny. Once I got this podcast launched and like I've got my short form content all up and running and all this other stuff, I got to the YouTube content and I had literally 4 hours blocked out to record 3 videos. And then I was like, I cannot be asked doing this right now. Like, I do not feel like, I feel like this is someone's told me to do YouTube content and it looks better, someone who's talking about video to do YouTube content. But this is where I actually went and did, if you've never done this before, I would highly, highly recommend it. There's by Dr. DeMartini, there's a thing on his website where you can actually evaluate, it's called a values evaluator or something like that. Right?
Yes, I've done that. Yeah.
Have you done it? I would highly recommend doing it again and seeing if there's any changes or anything else. But I did this after I had this feeling. I knew I'm not going to do YouTube content, but then I was like, fuck, like, why did I entertain that idea of the shiny object of there is no inkling of me that thinks I want to fucking like absolutely dominate YouTube. Like, yes, I would love to have, subscribers and all these other things, but it's not where our clients come from. I love long form content, but it's just not, it's right now, and it may change in the future, but right now, there's nothing that says to me, I want to educate like big long format content on YouTube. And so I went and did this values thing, and it showed me my values. And just off the top of my head, my top 3 values are connection, creative expression, and then communities. And so when I talk about communities, I still look at my family, my immediate family, as obviously a very tighter community. But like I'm part of a surf lifesaving club and a few other things, and it really helped me to understand where to put my attention, where to put my focus, and to speak more to that. Like even this podcast, right? And then I have another one, a 4th value that's a little bit smaller, but it's all around spirituality, which we've talked about, and I know that we've connected a little bit on in the past as well. But anyway, I was actually thinking about it. This podcast actually ticks all 4 values, and that's why I love doing it. And and if you can find things that really connect to your values, like if you won't ever feel like it's something to do or something that someone told me, when you find the thing, and does this podcast make me money? Probably not. Like it's something that I just love doing, and I actually feel happier on, my sales presentations and all the other things that I do when I'm publishing out regular content in a way that aligns to all of my values and everything else. And it, even just to your point, it really does help you align with, what everyone's telling you should do versus everything that you already know. And I completely resonate with that as well. I do have, like I said, I do have a business coach, but the conversations I have with my business coach is literally like, I'm planning on doing this. Do you have any feedback? And I'll literally, sometimes it would be 1 sentence or 2 sentences, and it'll be like, fuck, like, that's why I pay you big dollars. And it'll be like, don't do this, focus on this. Don't do this, focus on that. And it's like, it's an expensive conversation, but it's all I need because I already know, and sometimes it's just getting out of your own head as well.
Yeah. So much yes to all of that. It's also true. And I'm very, and I think this is like the beautiful thing when you go through things, you can share that with other people. And even when I work with my clients, I'm like, I'm never going to say you have to do this thing and here's a whole funnel and strategy and here's like the step-by-step we're all going to do and like throw it on them. It's like more of, let me hear from you what you're looking, what are you more like pulled into? What are you more aligned to? And work with that. It's like the more we can work with ourselves rather than against ourselves, I think the better. And you can bring in coaches and anyone to help you, but I think you need to have that solid certainty and foundation in yourself. But even that's a journey. Like I've signed my life away to lots of different things, and that's one of the big lessons that I learned. I have to hold that strong sense of self first and foremost, and then how can that, you know, come in and help the situation rather than me sign everything away to that, my power and all of that.
Absolutely. Well, I've absolutely loved this conversation today, Shannon. It's been really cool. I'm definitely keen to have you on sometime in the near future. If people are interested in either finding out more about you or even finding out more about your work and some of those things, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, definitely. So my website, shannonstone.com.au. It's not Sharon Stone, which I get called more than my own name. So I've kind of said to myself, I've got to really make a name for myself. You know, I've got to overcome this Sharon Stone person, whoever she may be. So website is good. Or on Facebook, I've got a Facebook group, Good Marketing, Good Business. That's a good place to come hang out as well. But yeah, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, probably more LinkedIn as well. Or shoot me an email, shannon@shannonstone.com.au.
Perfect. All right. And I'll just leave it. I'll just add, just to finish off, Shannon is an amazing, just a very genuine human. And I highly recommend going and checking her out. And even if you never work with Shannon, just follow some of her stuff. I really love seeing your updates and seeing what's going on and everything else. Obviously, like, I think also because we've been able to have some of those behind the scenes conversations and things like that, it's really helped me to feel like, you know, sometimes, you know, even though we've never met in person, you do build those connections and those friendships with like-minded people, sometimes more than people that you went to school with or who are your next door neighbors and all those other things, because you just have one conversation, you're on the same level, and every time we chat, I feel that exact same way. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I feel the same as well. But thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to listen to this back. I think there's been a lot of wisdom, and I'm excited to connect with anyone. Even add me on Facebook. Like, I'm that kind of person.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Shannon. Hope you have an incredible day. And for anyone listening, make sure you check out the next episode. Thank you. That is the end of today's podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, as I mentioned before, make sure you share the love, share it with a friend, family member, or otherwise. Make sure to give us a subscribe or even a positive rating on the various platforms. And if you're interested in finding out more about Triple Effect and who we are, what we do, head to tripleeffect.com.au. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next interview.